In this video here, we're going to be setting up our file and just kind of getting our person or persons ready to smudge paint. So we're going to create a new file. Let me go back to the home screen of Photoshop. So when you open up Photoshop, which if you haven't, please do so now, you're going to get a screen kind of like this. If we haven't worked in Photoshop yet, to make a new file, you're going to see on the left side here, create new. Again, this is I think my version is a little bit older than yours, so you might have a blue create new button up at the top. Go ahead and use that. Once you hit create new, though, it should look the same. It should look like this. The left contents will be different than mine just because I've used a couple of these dimensions recently. What I really want you to look for is the stuff on the right. Where it says Untitled 1, I would like for you guys to call this Smudge Painting, because that's what the project name will be called, / your name, just like that. Well, don't call it your name, like your actual name. The dimensions by default will probably be in pixels. Those are really tiny squares. If you click this drop down menu, change that to inches. The width, you're going to want it to be 18, and the height, you're going to want it to be 12. That being said, however, I want you to think about the portrait that you've chosen and if it's a taller or wider portrait. So if it's a taller portrait, you can hit this orientation tall one right here, and you'll see that that swaps your height to 18. So you want the numbers to either be, well, you want the numbers to be 12 and 18, but it depends on if you want it to be a tall canvas or a wide canvas. So think about the photo that you want, and then think about which one better suits it. The photo that I'll be doing, or that I have done, better suits the wide, so I'm going to leave the orientation as long, right there. Resolution is really important. That is your image quality. You need that to be 300, I believe, for every single project that we're going to do. And you want that, make sure that it says pixels per inch, which it should by default. So I think your resolution is 72 if you've never changed it. Make sure that you change that to 300. Color mode, you can leave that as RGB. If it's not RGB for some reason, go ahead and change it. We're going to do a filter that requires it to be RGB, so we will need that. Background content's white, leave advanced options alone, and then you can go ahead and hit the blue create button in the bottom. You should end up with a white rectangle like this. Just in case this is our first Photoshop project, I know I've done this in other videos, so bear with me here 1 second in my recording. Reset essentials. Okay, I want you to look at this content over here on the right. Yours should look just like mine, or really similar to it. We're going to clean this up to give you more space, or working space. The top one will say color. If you go all the way over to the right, you're going to see this little icon here with like 4 slashes. If you click on that, you're going to get a drop-down menu. You're going to go all the way to the bottom of it, and you're going to choose Close Tab Group. When you do that, you'll see that Properties now appears at the top. We also don't need this, so go over to that same button right there, click it, and then you can choose Close Tab Group. You'll notice that your UI then on the right side is layers and only layers. That's perfect because this project will have a lot of layers in it by the end of it. All right, getting your chosen image into this. If you look at the far right of my screen, you're going to see my arrow cursor. If I move it all the way over, you'll see that it changes to the kind of like a left pointing arrow. If I click and drag right now, that will move Photoshop over a little bit or kind of like condense it. And then I can see my photos that I left on my desktop right here. I can now move them into Photoshop nice and easy. I've used Chris Cornell for my example, so I'm just going to use it again here. I'll probably actually try to do these later just because I would like paintings of these 3 guys. So I'm going to take this image here, the chriscornell.jpg, and I'm going to click and drag it into the white canvas and let go. If you give it a second, it should render in, but it should have this bar or like X across it. That just means it hasn't fully rendered yet, so simply hit return on your keyboard. I'm going to hit this green button here in the top left of Photoshop. That'll maximize the screen again. Now, I got lucky here. This photo literally fit the size perfectly, and odds are yours won't, so we're going to go over that right now. The top left tool in Photoshop is the Move tool right here. If you click the Move tool, there are some settings that I want you guys to double check and change. Auto Select by default is chosen. I want you to unselect that. That can get pretty annoying down the road. Show Transform Controls is not selected by default, so I want you to click on that to where you see the little checkbox appear. That will give your image a box around it. And when you hover over any of the corner pockets, you'll notice that the icon looks like mine does right now with a diagonal arrow. Now if you click and drag, that will resize the image. I want you to size your person up so that they really fit the screen. Again, I don't want you to go too far below the shoulder. We are trying to do portraits, not full body shots here. Once you have it sized up to where you want it, then you can hit the return or enter key again so that you're good to go. All right, in our next video here, we're going to be going over image edits and a whole bunch more to get it right up to the point where we're going to be painting it.